Alright guys, got a really touchy video for you today. We're going to be talking about fighter pay. Long story short, and I need you to hear me out, okay? I don't think that fighter pay is as big of an issue as the MMA community and some of the UFC fighters are really making it out to be right now. We're going to talk about that in just a second, and don't get me wrong, again, this isn't a hate video, this isn't a UFC shill video or anything like that. I have my own ideas on to how to increase fighter pay, and we're going to talk about that at the end of the video. So this is not just going to be, hey, you know what, the UFC fighters, take what you got, okay? So I need you to hear me out here because I can already see you guys writing down in the comments, hey, what's this guy? This guy doesn't even know what he's talking about, you know what I mean? I can already see the hate coming from you guys. We're going to get into fighter pay in just a second. Before we get into the video, I do want to say hello, everybody, and welcome back to another video. If you are new here, my name is Kyle. I am your guy with too many YouTube channels. Let's talk about fighter pay. So last message before I start talking about the fighter pay. I do believe that fighters, it would be really, really wonderful if they could get an increase of pay. It's just not always feasible, okay? I'm not one of those people who are just like, oh my God, the fighters don't deserve anything. You don't deserve this, and just pay them like 10K, you know what I mean? I'm not of that opinion. I think it'd be awesome to pay them as much as possible. So I'm coming from a realistic perspective here. And again, we're going to get into it at the end of the video, my ideas on how to increase fighter pay. So I do want to begin this video by talking about probably the two most common arguments, and this is kind of off the top of my head here. So the first part is the prelim fighters, the early prelim fighters, the fighters that nobody knows about. A common argument is that these people are putting their life on the line. Well, I guess that's another conversation we'll talk about shortly after, but essentially these prelim fighters are not paid well. You know what I mean? They don't make nearly anything to what any name in the UFC makes. They all have their individual contracts. They all have a little bit of a base pay, and it's really nothing compared to, again, any other notable fighter. And a common argument you hear is, okay, these guys are fighting on the prelims, and the UFC runs 1,000 ads on the prelims. Those fighters should be compensated for the UFC running those ads. They probably make a lot of money from those ads, but I'm coming from the side of like, it's a really touchy thing because, you know what, they could give them money, but how much do they really deserve it? Because the UFC, I'm tuning into the early prelims a lot of times, and I'm really different, okay? I'm really different than your average MMA fan. I know a lot of these prelim fighters. I know a lot of these early prelim fighters. I know pretty much everybody there is to know on the card besides people making their UFC debut. People like me are pretty much non-existent in the grand scheme of things. So if you want to talk about people tuning into the prelims, people are tuning into the prelims because, like, maybe it's a really good main event and they're just catching it early. They're not tuning in for any particular fighters on the prelims. So that's where the argument's a little bit tough. Do they deserve it? Do they not? Do they deserve a cut because these people are tuning in for other reasons other than that specific prelim fighter? So that whole argument is a little bit dicey for me. I don't really have a strong opinion on that. Of course, again, I'm coming from a side where it'd be really nice if they got money. I'm just trying to look at this as realistic as possible. So with that particular topic, I would love to know what you guys think down below. But let's talk about one of the other common arguments that you hear, and it's actually quite simple. They are professional athletes. They deserve to be compensated like professional athletes. Something that we will talk about is this is not the NFL. This is the UFC. It's its own business. It does not bring in nearly as much revenue as somebody like if you were to go into the NHL and get signed, you would have like this amount of money. You know what I mean? The UFC is so much less than that, and they simply can't afford it. Now, you could say the people do argue, and we're going to get into this a little bit later. Dana White's worth $500,000. Make it come from Dana's pockets, but it's at the end of the day, it's Dana White's money. But we're going to be talking about that a little later. So these professional athletes, just because they're professional athletes, and they are, it would be nice if they got paid, but what, like, again, like I talked about, it's not the NHL. How much do professional bowlers make? How much do professional cricket players make? It's probably not a lot of money. If I had to guess, it's like $50,000. You know, it's not a lot of money. Just because it's a professional athlete does not mean that they should be getting more money than they already are getting. Again, it would be nice, but take a look at all the sports. You're comparing it to football. You know what I mean? They can't just go around paying everybody hundreds of thousands and millions, and I understand not everybody's arguing that, but it's still something that we need to take into consideration. And the last common argument that I hear is that these fighters are risking their lives. While that's true, and again, it would be nice if it was just, hey, you know what, everybody gets $1 million, everybody gets hundreds of thousands of dollars, but that's not exactly feasible. You can take so many jobs. Take police officers, for example. They're risking their lives too. Do they deserve just as much? It doesn't make any sense. They have their salary for a reason. And we're going to get into it a little bit more because the next part that I do want to take in, it's tough because these fighters really are risking their lives. They are, and they're taking so much damage. I have a hard time saying this because I could say, get better, get movement like Anderson Silva. Don't take any damage, you know what I mean? But that's way easier said than done. The point is, there are so many jobs everywhere around the world where you're constantly risking your lives. So I don't really think that's just a good argument. Plus, of course, like any job, it's optional. But here's the one where I really think that you guys are going to lay into me, okay? We hear so many times from Dana White, this isn't a career, this is an opportunity. Now, people take that quote when Dana says it, and man, do they go mad with it. But I'm sitting back here, and I don't really know anybody around me who agrees with me. So I'm ready for the comments, okay? He's right. He's right. It's not a career. It's an opportunity. The UFC is giving these fighters such an opportunity to be something magnificent. You could be a Conor McGregor. You could be an Israel Adesanya. Recent example, Sean O'Malley. Do exactly what these guys are doing. You could even put your own twist on it. You have such an opportunity to be in one of the biggest spotlights on one of the biggest stages of all time. It's not hard to work on your social media. It's not hard to post something and be funny. Do something other than just show up and fight. You have the opportunity to become your own brand. How often is that opportunity presented to people? That is a fantastic opportunity, and I really, really respect the fighters like Sean O'Malley, like Joe Pyfer. That's another new one, where these fighters are, not all of them, but a lot of fighters saying they're coming from nothing, and they come up and they talk about how grateful they are for the UFC for the opportunity. Look what people are doing. Demetrius Johnson has a gaming channel now based off of his UFC career. He plays video games on stream. If he just did that, the likelihood of him succeeding on YouTube would be very low. People need to take the opportunity, grow their own brand, because again, it's not difficult, especially when you're given the platform that you have at the UFC. So I agree with Dana. I completely agree with him. It's not a career. It's an opportunity. You have the opportunity to be one of the best fighters ever. You have the opportunity to continuously train and grow and have those crazy, crazy highlights that people pay attention to. You have the opportunity to become one of the biggest brands ever. You have the opportunity to become one of the Conor McGregors. That's all you have to do. It's not difficult. Again, even if you want to be someone like Colby Covington, go get negative attention. That's arguably even easier. You can make more money with this opportunity, and it is one of the best opportunities that these athletes can get because it's not, like I said, we talked about NHL, NFL, we talked about all of that stuff. The UFC arguably has one of the greatest platform opportunities there is out there for you guys, for the fighters to become their own brand. They have their identity. It's crazy to me that people are really, really hating on Dana White for saying that. It really is an opportunity, and it's a golden opportunity for these fighters. And I really respect the guys like Sean O'Malley, the guys like Joe Pyfer, the guys like Chael Sonnen, the guys who always talk about how grateful they are to have the opportunity that they had. And those are just off the top of my head. Of course, there are many, many fighters there. You have the opportunity to build something magnificent from essentially nothing, and you could live on that for the rest of your life. It is an incredible opportunity that these fighters are given. And look, if you don't want to fight, here's another point. You don't have to be a fighter. You can choose what you want to do in life. It's crazy to me that, like, some people, they talk like this is the only thing they could possibly do. If you don't like the pay, go get another job somewhere else. You don't have to be a fighter. If you're like, I don't want to risk my body for this amount of money, I don't want to risk my body for $10,000, $30,000, don't risk it. Go get another job. You want to talk about $30,000? That's more than most people make in a year for one fight. I would love to fight for $30K. I would step in the octagon for $30,000. I really, really would. With the potential of a bonus, it's crazy to me. Like, people are acting like this is their only way out. You can go get a job. Go to school. Get a job. You don't have to be a fighter. And even better, you don't have to fight in the UFC. Francis Ngannou wasn't happy. Went to the PFL. There's opportunities everywhere. If you're more happy somewhere else in the UFC, you don't have to fight there. And if you signed a contract to fight so many fights, sucks. You sign the fight. After that, go fight somewhere else, or don't be a fighter at all. You don't have to fight in the UFC. You don't have to sign to fight for that amount of pay. You don't have to do any of this. The fighters are not being forced to do anything. And I can already see the comments, guys. I can already see the comments being so angry. I mean, people probably didn't even make it this far in the video. They just saw me. I was on the kind of like the other side of fighter pay here, which again, I'm not. We're going to talk about ways to boost those pays in a little bit, but people will keep saying like, oh my God, I've been brainwashed by Dana White. People like me who make these talking points have been brainwashed by Dana White, brainwashed by the media. And I'm like, I am not brainwashed. I'm just thinking. I'm thinking, and people say that all the time. They like to use that word, brainwashing. Who's really brainwashed? Is it the people who are brainwashed? You think about the stuff that you see on YouTube all the time. Think about the conversation that's constantly brought up in your news feeds, on your TikTok, on your Twitter, Reddit. It's always about fighter pay. It's always on the other side of the coin. It's always the UFC is being so evil, and these fighters deserve more. Am I really the one brainwashed, or am I the one thinking outside the box a little bit here? Because I sure see a lot of you parroting the same points over and over again, and not you in particular watching this video. I need you guys to understand I'm generalizing here, but here's the biggest point that I wanted to make for this video. It's not your money. It's not your money. It's the UFC's money. It's Dana White's money. What right did you guys have, or anybody have? What right does anybody have to tell the UFC what to do with their money? It's their own business. They built it from nothing. They can do what they want. It seems like almost a childish argument where I can go to you, any of you watching this, and be like, hey, give me some money. Or why don't you, it's the same argument for the people like, why don't you donate your money to some charity right now? You have enough money. You could help some people out. What right do I have to tell you what to do with your money? I don't have a right. And it's almost childish to me that I have to, that people don't understand this. Again, you and I might understand this, but there are many people out there that don't understand this. And it comes to like, you can really even get into the argument about the whole eat the rich campaign that's there. You know what I mean? People have too much money. Dana White has too much money. The UFC has too much money. Nobody can dictate what the UFC does with their money. Nobody can dictate what anybody does with their money. It's your money. It's their money. They can do what they want with it. And if you have an issue with that, you don't have to fight for the UFC. It is not your money to say what to do with. End of story. Before we do wrap this video up for today, I do have a couple ideas of how the fighters could make a little bit more money that I would like to see implemented into the UFC. First off, I see absolutely no reason why the fighters can't have sponsors. That is ridiculous to me, and that I've seen the pay for it. And that, when you want to talk about that pay, that's getting into ridiculous territory. Not just the base fighter pay. That's getting into ridiculous territory. You know what I mean? What's the big deal? Have the fighters have some stuff on their shorts and they can make an insane amount of money. I see no issue with that. And just to make the UFC gear look cleaner and to have the UFC have their own deal, at the end of the day, it's still their own company. They can do what they want, but I think that is, I don't want to say not right, but it's something that the UFC should be doing, in my opinion. These fighters already have their own contracts assigned to fight for so much. Why can't they have sponsors on their shorts? You know? I don't see a problem with it. Why can't they talk about something on the post-fight interview? I think they should be able to do what they want in that sense. So that would be something really nice to see that I would love to see implemented back into the UFC one day. But I had one more idea to increase fighter pay. It'd be really cool if the UFC introduced like a flat pay. And I don't even really know where to start. If you want to start it, I don't know where to start because I was going to say like 500K, but you could even do like 100K. 200K if you have a top 15 spot in the division. Maybe if you break into the rankings, you get a pay increase to a certain extent, period. No questions asked. Doesn't matter if you're popular. Doesn't matter. Nobody knows who you are. Doesn't matter if you won one fight to get there. If you break into the top 15, you get a pay boost. It'd be really cool if they had like a general salary for all of that. I think that would be a really good idea. And if you want to get into a little bit more, if that doesn't really satisfy enough fighters, you can make the 0 to 20 rankings. I don't see a problem with that. I feel like that's something that the UFC could afford, and that would also incentivize fighters to do better and better every single time and fight more often, really campaign to get brand new fights. You know what I mean? So I really, really like that idea. And I also like the idea of going back to the old days where the fighters could have whatever sponsors that they wanted. But guys, at the end of the day, I don't like this conversation that's been going on online. Everybody's been hating on the UFC. Everybody's been hating on Dana White. And it's their business. They can do what they want with their money. Again, I really respect the fighters who are always grateful to the UFC for the opportunity they've been given. They take a look at another example that I didn't mention is Cowboy Cerrone. Guys like Cowboy Cerrone, at one point he was fighting monthly. He was making an insane amount of money. He was rewarded for that. People knew who he was, Cowboy Cerrone. That's how I started to become a fan of him. I was like, this dude fights a lot and he always puts on fun shows. And then Cowboy became his own brand. Now he has his own ranch, runs his own gym. The guy's set for life. Have you seen the way that guy's living? It's incredible. That's just one example. There are fighters that are well taken care of. They just gotta be nice to the UFC. They have to gather fans. They have to perform. You don't even have to fight that often. Just do something. This UFC career really is an opportunity for these guys, and I would love to see more people take advantage of it. It's the opportunity of a lifetime. People would kill to get in the UFC, man. And some of these fighters, and it's not just the fighters, you know what I mean? It's particular fighters we can talk about, but it's mostly the fans. These fans don't understand anything, and quite frankly, I don't believe I'm the one brainwashed. I believe everybody else is the one that's brainwashed. People are just parroting the same thing over and over. Oh my God, UFC fighters need to be paid more because they deserve it. Like, what kind of argument is that? You know, that's legitimately what people are arguing. Oh, yeah, they should get paid more, period. That's all they hear, and then they just parrot it, you know what I mean? So I'd love to know what you guys think down below. I'm ready for the hate comments, to be honest with you. This is a little bit of a toughie video, but I'm going to be honest with you. I'm not looking to start like a huge thread back and forth of people, but I will be reading replies. Maybe I'll shoot 1 or 2 replies your way because I would like to talk about this down below. And what do you think about my points? What do you think about my ideas to fix fighter pay for the UFC? Maybe it could help out a little bit, but that's something that I really see being feasible one day. I'd love to know what you guys think down below again, and thank you so much for watching this video. On the screen right now, you will have 2 fantastic Clenbat videos for you to watch. If you didn't like this one, you will certainly like the other ones. Thanks for watching, guys. I will see you there. Take care.